Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Classic Hollywood TV. Long before the era of instant streaming and modern digital noise, the world was captured by a different kind of magic. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, television wasn't just entertainment. It was a weekly ritual that brought entire families together in the warm glow of the living room. It was a time when simple values, rural charm, and high-flying thrills could turn a fictional place into a national obsession. For millions of viewers, that place was Hazzard County, a sun-drenched landscape of red dirt roads, southern hospitality, and a bright orange Dodge Charger that seemed to fly through the crisp air like freedom itself. The Dukes of Hazzard was more than just a hit show. It was a cultural phenomenon that defined an era of television history, celebrating a simpler way of life where loyalty mattered most and the good guys always wore the widest smiles. Behind the tire smoke, the infectious laughter, and the country music soundtracks, there was a magnificent ensemble of artists who breathed life into this small-town universe. They created an escape for a generation, painting a world where justice was personal and family was an unbreakable bond. But as any historian of the silver screen knows, the spotlight is an illusion, and the decades that follow the final wrap are often filled with quiet transitions, hidden struggles, and the inevitable passage of time. The grand facade of Hollywood has always been built on a delicate balance of public glamour and private reality. While the audiences of yesterday remember these heroes frozen in moments of youthful perfection, racing down pristine dirt roads, the true stories of the performers themselves continued long after the cameras stopped rolling and the dust finally settled on the studio lots. As we look back from the vantage point of 2026, the legacy of Hazzard County carries a deep, atmospheric weight, filled with both nostalgia and the bittersweet realization that an entire golden era of television has become a chapter of the past. Some of the beloved faces who made that small county feel like an entire world are still with us today, carrying the memories of those golden years with grace and dignity. Others have already taken their final bow, leaving behind a rich tapestry of work that continues to shine in syndication. To truly understand the magic of this legendary series, one must look past the roaring engines and look closer at the remarkable people who grounded the wild energy of the show. We begin our journey by stepping back onto that familiar front porch, where the lights were always on, and where the soul of the story was carefully guarded by figures who possessed the rare, classic craftsmanship of old Hollywood. The journey into the heart of Hazzard County begins with the steady, fatherly presence that gave the entire narrative its moral compass. Uncle Jesse was the quiet force that held the family together, a man whose strength came from patience and whose authority was built entirely on love. This unforgettable role was brought to life by Denver Pyle, born May 11, 1920, in Bethune, Colorado. When he first stepped onto the set, Pyle was already a seasoned veteran of 59, possessing the deep instinctive understanding of a classic character actor who had spent decades sharpening his craft across the fields of cinema and television. Long before he became the guardian of the Duke family, his face was a familiar comfort to audiences who recognized him from countless westerns and classic dramas. Pyle played Jesse with an effortless sincerity, grounding the show's wild, high-speed energy with a calm gravity that made viewers feel completely safe. He was the reminder that the Duke boys were not simply running from the law, they were protecting a home, a heritage, and a traditional way of life. For 7 seasons, Pyle was the anchor of the ensemble, a beloved father figure both on-screen and behind the scenes. Sadly, the final curtain fell for this legendary performer on December 25, 1997, when he passed away at the age of 77 due to lung cancer. Yet, in the endless cycle of television history, Uncle Jesse remains a permanent fixture, resembling a steady porch light that never goes out. Every great adventure requires a grand antagonist, a larger-than-life figure who can stir up trouble without ever breaking the light-hearted spirit of the world. In Hazzard County, that role belonged to Boss Hogg, a character defined by greed, endless scheming, and an impossible-to-hate charm. Sorrel Book, born January 4, 1930, in Buffalo, New York, was 49 when he donned the famous white suit and stepped into the spotlight as the county's most famous corporate villain. What made Book's performance truly spectacular was the immense theatrical precision hidden beneath the comedic tantrums and ridiculous bribes. He understood the delicate balance of the series perfectly. Boss Hogg had to represent a constant threat, yet he could never turn the world truly cruel or dark. Book delivered this performance with a masterclass in timing, turning every failed plot and explosive outburst into pure entertainment while keeping the narrative moving forward with relentless energy. Like Pyle, Book had built a broad, respected career across film and television before arriving in Hazzard. His earthly journey ended on February 11, 1994, at the age of 64 due to colorectal cancer, but his creation remains iconic, serving as absolute proof that a villain can become deeply beloved when played with genuine artistry and a clever twinkle in the eye, to seamlessly guide the audience through these chaotic small-town escapades. The show relied on a voice that felt as though it belonged to the open road itself. Waylon Jennings, born June 15, 1937, in Littlefield, Texas, became the ultimate balladeer at the age of 42, narrating the adventures of the Duke boys with a country singer's soul and a natural storyteller's warmth. Jennings' presence was essential because his narration transformed the weekly television episodes into a piece of authentic modern folklore. He didn't merely explain the plot, he winked at the audience, chuckled at the absurdity, and turned each chase into a legendary tale told around a nighttime campfire. Beyond his brilliant narration, Jennings delivered the legendary theme song, a definitive anthem of loyalty, trouble, and living entirely free that became permanently inseparable from the show's identity. Already a towering legend in the outlaw country music movement, his influence stretched far beyond the boundaries of television. Jennings took his final bow on February 13, 2002, at 64 due to complications from diabetes. But the very moment that familiar narration begins, audiences are instantly transported back to those sun-drenched red dirt roads. Proving that some voices never truly leave the airwaves, in a town where things were constantly breaking down, Cooter was the dependable friend every community needs, a loyal mechanic with grease on his hands and unwavering devotion in his bones. Ben Jones, born August 30, 1941, in Tarboro, North Carolina, was 38 when he took on the role of Cooter, bringing a deep, comforting warmth to the screen. Jones's performance mattered immensely because he anchored the fast-paced world of Hazzard in a genuine sense of community. He wasn't flashy or reckless. He was essential, providing the reassuring knowledge that no matter how dangerous the chase became, someone back home would always be ready to fix what broke. His unique energy, natural humor, and steadfast support made the friendships feel entirely real, transforming Cooter's garage from a simple television set into a true safe haven for the heroes. After the series reached its conclusion, Jones transitioned into public service, eventually serving as a United States congressman while remaining deeply connected to the show's devoted fan community. Looking at the landscape of the entertainment industry, Ben Jones stands as a magnificent survivor, carrying the torch of Hazzard's legacy with pride, a living reminder that the true heart of the story was never the mechanical power of the car, but the extraordinary people who kept showing up for one another. The chaotic pursuit of justice in Hazzard was led by Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, a character who represented pure comedic chaos in a badge. James Best, born July 26, 1926, in Powderly, Kentucky, was 53 when he took on the challenge of playing the bumbling, loud, and endlessly determined lawman. In lesser hands, a character like Roscoe could have easily become irritating or malicious, but Best infused him with a brilliant cartoon energy and a strange, childlike innocence. Roscoe truly believed he was the righteous hero of his own story, a misguided soul who was fiercely loyal to Boss Hogg and completely blinded by his own frantic enthusiasm. Best's remarkable comedic timing kept the tone of the show bright and joyous, creating a pursuer who was dangerous enough to keep the stakes alive, but silly enough to ensure the family-friendly atmosphere remained intact. Best possessed a long, distinguished acting career that extended far beyond the borders of Hazzard, moving gracefully between intense dramatic roles and slapstick comedy. Passed away on April 6, 2015, at the age of 88 due to complications from pneumonia, leaving behind a legacy of laughter that continues to echo through television history as Roscoe comes barreling down the road, siren wailing. Forever unforgettable. The roaring engine of the series was fueled by the dynamic contrast between the two cousins behind the wheel of the General Lee, young men who became the definitive screen heroes of an entire generation. Luke Duke was the steadier half of the legendary duo, a character defined by charm, strategic thinking, and just enough responsibility to balance out the wild impulsiveness of his younger brother. Tom Wopat, born September 9, 1951, in Lodi, Wisconsin, was 28 when he stepped into the role, giving the series its calm, collected confidence. Wopat's performance carried immense weight because Luke served as the moral center for the boys' mischief, ensuring that their continuous defiance of corrupt authority always felt principled rather than reckless. The finest moments of his performance were often the quietest, found in the steady, knowing glances that communicated an unbreakable bond of brotherhood and a quiet vow to always do the right thing. This perfect blend of leading man charisma and grounded conscience allowed Wopat to transition into a highly respected career in music and on Broadway following the show's conclusion. Moving fluidly between high-octane television stunts, soulful country music recordings, and the grand stages of live theatre, he proved that his artistic depth extended far beyond the action comedy genre. Remaining a celebrated and enduring figure in American entertainment, in stark contrast to Luke's careful strategy, Bo Duke was pure momentum, a fearless, fun-loving spirit who was always completely ready to leap before looking. John Schneider, born April 8, 1960, in Mount Kisco, New York, was a mere 19 years old when he won the role, bringing a jolt of youthful electricity that made the entire production feel as though it ran on teenage confidence alone. Schneider carried the pure joy of the series on his shoulders. If Luke was the planner, Bo was the irreplaceable spark, defined by a reckless optimism that transformed every dangerous escape into a spectacular celebration. He possessed a rare ability to make peril look like the ultimate adventure, capturing a sense of pure, unadulterated escapism that audiences thoroughly craved during the late 70s and early 80s. Schneider's infectious energy resonated deeply with millions of viewers, and he successfully parlayed that massive television stardom into a prolific career spanning both acting and chart-topping country music. Throughout the subsequent decades, he remained deeply dedicated to his craft and fiercely loyal to the fanbase that had embraced him as a teenager, maintaining a constant, vibrant presence in independent film, television, and musical performances behind the glamorous facade of high ratings and cultural dominance. However, the intense pressures of the television industry began to catch up with the production, leading to a dramatic turning point that shook the entire franchise to its foundation. At the absolute peak of the show's popularity, a massive behind-the-scenes contract dispute erupted between the studio executives and the two lead actors over merchandising royalties and the immense profits generated by the show's global success. The studio, believing that the true stars of the series were simply the orange car and the established formula, refused to yield to the actors' demands. In a bold and highly controversial move that stunned the entertainment industry, both Tom Wopat and John Schneider walked off the set, leaving a massive void at the center of America's favorite weekly adventure. The sudden absence of Bo and Luke forced the writers into a frantic scramble, resulting in the abrupt introduction of two new cousins, Coy and Vance Duke, played by Byron Cherry and Christopher Mayer. This unexpected changing of the guard became a fascinating and highly debated chapter in television history, illustrating the delicate, invisible bond that exists between an audience and the performers they love. Byron Cherry, born April 17, 1955 in Atlanta, Georgia, was 27 when he was thrust into the role of Coy, while Christopher Mayer, born February 21, 1954 in New York City, was 28 when he stepped onto the set as Vance. Both actors brought an admirable level of enthusiasm, athletic energy, and good-natured charm to a situation that was undeniably difficult. They carried the traditional Duke spirit of rebellion and loyalty without explicitly mimicking their predecessors, fighting hard to keep the massive production engine running smoothly. Yet, the brief and tumultuous era of Coy and Vance ultimately highlighted a profound Hollywood truth. True lightning-in-a-bottle casting cannot simply be manufactured or replaced by a formula. The audience missed the specific chemistry, the familiar smiles, and the deep emotional history of the original duo, resulting in a noticeable decline in viewership and an intense public clamour for the return of the true sons of Hazzard. Recognizing the undeniable power of the original cast, the studio executives were eventually forced to settle the dispute, bringing Tom Wopat and John Schneider back to their rightful places in the cockpit of the General Lee to a wave of national celebration. Though the detour into the temporary replacement era was relatively short-lived, it remains an unforgettable monument to the golden age of television storytelling. It proved definitively that the true soul of a legendary series resides not in the stunt cars, the spectacular explosions, or the corporate trademarks, but in the specific, irreplaceable humanity of the actors who breathe life into the characters week after week. Christopher Meyer continued to work steadily across various genres of television before passing away on July 23, 2011, at the age of 57 due to natural causes, leaving his time as Vance preserved as a unique historical footnote. Meanwhile, Byron Cherry continued to actively participate in the vibrant fan community, joining his fellow survivors in celebrating a legacy that proved entirely unbreakable, demonstrating how even the unexpected detours and behind-the-scenes dramas eventually weave themselves into the grand tapestry of a Hollywood legend. The enduring brilliance of Hazzard County was fortified by an extraordinary supporting ensemble, a collection of character actors who populated the world with endless texture and genuine humanity. Among these unforgettable figures was Deputy Enos Strait, a character who represented pure kindness in a uniform. Sonny Schroyer, born August 28, 1935, in Valdosta, Georgia, was 44 when he played Enos, giving the show a unique sweetness that softened the relentless engine of chases and schemes. Schroyer's performance mattered immensely, because Enos made the entire world feel humane. He was never foolish, simply incredibly gentle, a man trapped between his duty to the law and his deep personal conscience. His enduring crush on Daisy Duke added a layer of innocent romance to the series, and his profound decency made him memorable enough to earn his own successful spin-off series. Moving beyond the boundaries of Hazzard, Schroyer continued a rich acting career in major cinematic productions and television dramas, remaining a beloved icon of classic television craftsmanship. Beside Enos stood the bumbling, lovable figure of Cletus Hogg, the goofy deputy caught directly in the middle of the county's chaotic power structure. Rick Hurst, born January 1, 1946, in Houston, Texas, was 33 when he took on the role of Cletus, delivering a masterclass in slapstick warmth that made the character entirely endearing. Hurst understood that Cletus needed to remain completely non-threatening, his confusion, his desperate eagerness to please his uncle Boss Hogg, and his occasional flashes of clear conscience made him feel like a genuine small-town guy who had simply stumbled into the wrong job but tried his absolute best anyway. Hurst's brilliant comedic choices provided a perfect human pause button in a world defined by speed, and he maintained a beautiful, lasting connection with the show's massive fan base through decades of conventions and reunions. Preserving the joyful spirit of his character for future generations, the household of the show's chief antagonist was brilliantly balanced by Lulu Hogg, the surprise conscience of the Hogg family. Peggy Rhea, born March 31, 1921, in Los Angeles, California, was 58 when she played Lulu, bringing a sharp, no-nonsense comedic timing that turned every single appearance into a genuine gift. Rhea's performance was essential because Lulu added a crucial dimension to the world. Without her presence, Boss Hogg risked becoming pure greed, but through her eyes, the audience witnessed love, frustration, and a stubborn sense of decency trying to survive under a roof built entirely on crooked schemes. Rhea built an expansive, highly respected career across some of the most beloved shows in television history, leaving behind a legacy of strength and grace before her passing on February 5, 2011. At the age of 89 due to heart failure, when the stakes of the series required a genuine touch of realism, Sheriff Big Ed Little would arrive to challenge the status quo. Don Pedro Colley, born August 30, 1938, in Klamath Falls, Oregon, was 43 when he played the tough, highly competent lawman, bringing a commanding authority that raised the stakes of the narrative. Colley's performance was vital because he reminded audiences that not every encounter could be waved away with a laugh, His deep, resonant voice and imposing presence introduced a cooler, sharper tension that forced the Duke boys to be smarter rather than just faster. Collie possessed a distinguished film career prior to his time in Hazzard, moving gracefully between intense cinematic dramas and television westerns before his passing on October 11, 2017, at 79 years old, leaving behind a standard of professionalism that grounded the series in real-world weight. The moral reinforcement of the wider community was beautifully embodied by Ms. Emma Tisdale, the feisty postmistress who feared absolutely nothing. Nedra Voles, born June 18, 1908, in Montrose, Iowa, was 72 when she stepped into the role, turning brief appearances into unforgettable screen milestones with pure character magic. Voles embodied a profound small-town truth: the reality that every real community has an older woman who knows everything, fears no corporate authority, and refuses to be pushed around by schemers. Voles had a wonderfully prolific career, playing unforgettable, sharp-witted elderly characters across the landscape of classic entertainment, continuing to delight audiences until her earthly journey concluded on January 20, 2003. At the advanced age of 94 due to complications from Alzheimer's disease, every chaotic world requires a quiet room where humanity can re-enter, and that safe space was provided by Doc Appleby, the town's quiet stability. Parley Bear, born August 5, 1914, in Salt Lake City, Utah, was 67 when he played the Doctor, bringing an old-school gentleness that made him instantly trustworthy. Bear's performance mattered because he represented care without judgment, acting as a still point in a television series built entirely on motion. Bear enjoyed an illustrious career stretching across the golden ages of American radio, film, and television, lending his unmistakable voice and comforting presence to countless classic productions before passing away on November 22, 2002. At 88 years old due to complications from a stroke, the vibrant tapestry of Hazzard was further enriched by unforgettable visitors and extended family members who added unique flavors to the local lore. Lindsay Bloom, born August 28, 1950, in Omaha, Nebraska, brought brilliant comedic timing and immense charm to the role of Myrtle Tillingham, demonstrating how a gifted performer can make a side character truly unforgettable through sheer presence and a radiant smile. Jeff Altman, born August 13, 1951, in Syracuse, New York, raised the comedic stakes as Huey Hogg, portraying a slick, performatively corrupt nephew who treated scheming like an energetic sport. Ernie Lively, born January 29, 1947, in Baltimore, Maryland, brought a down-to-earth, genuine charm to Longstreet B. Davenport, reinforcing the interconnected, lived-in feel of the town before his passing on June 3, 2021, at 74. John Wheeler, born June 20, 1930, offered a final note of friendly reliability as the general store owner Mr. Rubottom, creating a sense of everyday comfort that anchored the spectacular adventures in a recognizable reality. At the absolute center of the family's enduring legacy stood Daisy Duke, a character who transcended the boundaries of television to become a permanent cultural icon. Catherine Bach, born March 1, 1954, in Cleveland, Ohio, was 25 when she took on the role, creating a figure so profoundly impactful that her chosen wardrobe became a lasting phrase in the fashion lexicon. But Bach's performance was defined by far more than an iconic image. Daisy was the fearless engine of the Duke family, a quick-thinking, incredibly brave woman who drove the yellow Jeep, gathered vital intelligence, and saved her cousins just as often as they saved her. Bach delivered a character full of confidence, humor, and grounded warmth, providing a powerful female hero who belonged entirely at the center of the action. Decades after the final credits rolled, the enduring magic of the series remains anchored in this extraordinary collection of artists. The red dirt roads may have faded into history, but the profound joy, the unbreakable friendships, and the beautiful feeling of absolute freedom continue to live on, capturing the hearts of viewers every single time the General Lee takes flight into the eternal sky. The final news segment layout has been successfully prepared for generation. All necessary materials, biographical references, and visual elements concerning the main stars of the show have been analyzed. A high-impact news banner has been configured to draw attention to the behind-the-scenes contract crisis that fundamentally altered the casting history of television's gold era.